Welcome, welcome, and Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. We are in Parshat vaYishlach. It's the Parsha where Jacob is on his way back to the land of Canaan to see his family, and he has left Lavan, who his uncle, who was thinking of killing him actually, but was prevented from doing that by God. And now he then hears that Esau is coming to meet him with a greeting party of 400 armed men. And that we already dealt with that. We read the famous story of his wrestling with the angels. Believe me, Jacob's life is not going to be a party from here on in. It really isn't. And this particular story is the story of Dinah. We already have been doing it. We're in the midst of it. And right now, his sons, especially Shimon and Levi, have tricked the people of the land. And this is his reaction at this particular point. Okay. So we're in the midst of the spoiling, right, of Shechem, which is what they did. Et sonam, this describing what they had taken, right? Et sonam, their sheep, et bakaram, their cattle, et chamorehem, their donkeys, ve'et asher ba'ir, and that which was in the city of Shechem, ve'et asher basadeh, and that which was in the field, lakachu, they took. All right. The et kol chelam. There's no Rashi on that. We can take a look and see, but there is no Rashi. You can see. Okay. But there will be Rashi in the next verse. The et kol chelam, and all their substance. The et kol tapam, their children, their little children. The et neshehem, and their women, their wives. Shavu, they captured. Vayvazu, and Vayvazu, and they took them as spoil. Ve'et kol asher babayit, and all that was in their household. They all took all that as spoil. Take a look at, yeah, not one of the prettiest stories, but I think it is a setup, actually. It is a foreshadowing, and I'll share that with you in a moment. Chelam. In other words, what's the point of the story? It seems to come out in the middle of nowhere, right? Except other than aggravating Jacob. Chelam, so their substance, their power, right? Mamonam, he says, it's their money, right? It's their money. And likewise in book of Deuteronomy, chapter 8, Aseli kol et hachayil hazeh, right? Who made for me all this money, this wealth, right? And see, in Bamidbar in Numbers 24, vaYisrael oseh chayil. So again, we're talking about Israel again getting into wealth, becoming wealthy. And Psalm 49, ve'azvul acharehem chelam, and leave to the others all their property, their wealth. Shavu, in other words, this is doesn't mean to return here. It means lashon shvi'ah, captivity. It has the meaning of captivity. Lefichach ta'amo milra, and he says that the reason is that the accent is so. Let's go take a look at how that is pointed, right? So it's shavu, not shavu. Had it been shavu, it would mean to return, but shavu they captured from shviya. So backing up a little bit, this story is here to let us know why when the brothers show up to Joseph and they don't recognize Joseph, who's now the viceroy of Egypt, right? Quite a few chapters later, he acts and says he calls them spies and he treats them very roughly. And the reason why that comes out understandably is because I promise you, the news of what they did in Shechem wasn't kept only in Shechem. This wasn't Vegas. And I'm sure that people all around heard what happened. And of course, Joseph knew about it for sure, and he treated them as if they were going to be similar to the Shechem story. And so this story actually um, supports that. Also, he takes Shimon as his captive when he sends the other brothers back. So this story actually has a very important part to play, just even if it's just for that sake. And I'm sure, of course, there's more to it than that.
Hmm.
So, but it is an interesting story and one that raises a whole bunch of questions. But that at least is one solution. Going on. Vayomer Yaakov, right? Jacob said, El Shimon ve'el Levi. Remember, they were the two instigators of this whole plot. Achartem oti, you have disturbed me. You have muddied the waters, right? You'll see Rashi actually makes a reference to that in scripture. Lahav isheni beyoshev haaretz, to make me odious amongst the inhabitants of the land. Vaknaani, amongst the Canaanites, Uvaprizi, and amongst the Perizzites, Va'ani Mate Mispar, and as for me, I'm few in number. V'nesfu alai ve'ikuni, and if they gather together against me and strike me, v'nishmadati ani uveiti, my household, I and my household will be destroyed. Achartem. So there's this word achartem, right? You've muddied the waters. Lashon mayim akurim, right? It's talking about disturbed waters, right? Ein da'ati, and he's now paraphrasing. Ein da'ati slula achshav. I do not have a clear mind now. I just gonna have this stress, this worry, always in the back of my mind now. You've made it tough for me. Agadah, right? And he says there's an Agadah. Slula haita achavit. The flask was clear, v'ikartem oto, and now you have made it all messed up. You muddied it up. So using metaphoric language in the Tanhuma, but Midrash. Misirat, oh, Masoret haita, b'yad Knanim. There was a tradition that the Canaanites had, Sheyiplu b'yad b'nei Yaakov, that they in fact would fall at the hands of the descendants of Jacob. Ela shahayu omrim, but people were saying, Ad asher tifre v'nachalat nachalt et haaretz, that it would wait, that it wasn't going to happen now. It would wait until they became, in other words, they became fruitful. In other words, until their population would expand. Remember, it talks about pru urvu, meaning to be fruitful and multiply. So,
Mhm.
meaning that they became a large population here. They were a relatively small family, and that they would inherit the land. V'tikach hayu shotut. So he's explaining, it's interesting because what he is saying, why did the Canaanites not react to what had happened? And he's saying that the reason is because they they had this tradition, and they felt at this point they didn't want to react, but they had this tradition that this was going to happen. Now, that statement, okay, is it again, these kinds of statements make me wonder, what is the real point they're having here? Yes, I think it is there to explain why didn't they attack Jacob? Why didn't they? And what was the nature of this tradition? Did they accept this tradition? Were they comfortable with this tradition? So, but basically, Hayushotkin means they were quiet right now. They didn't react. Going on. Matei mispar, anashim mu'atim, few in numbers. So, matei mispar. It's totally an idiom, and matei here means people, right? This one. It may, I wonder if it comes from the word mort, mort, meaning mortal, death. So we are few mortals, just a number of, when you talk about a number of so and so, very often, even in English, you mean just a small number. So that's that. And ending up this chapter. Vayomru, and they said, in other words, Shimon and Levi said, Hakazona ya'aseh et achotenu. Can you make will our sister be made like a prostitute?